My God, Vice, what happened to you? Weren't you co-founded by Gavin McGuinness? And now this.
We're tired of burying people. It's not about your job. Y'all just got your cameras thinking it's a joke. I'm tired. I'm tired of burying people.
So yeah, I'm doing Black Lives Matter. This is going to be fun.
After Michael Brown was killed, the anger and heartbreak of a community spread across the country. Then came Walter Scott, then Freddie Gray, then Laquan McDonald. Tamir Rice and Eric Garner came before them.
Did anyone else notice something that everyone on that list had in common? I'm not just drinking, I'm giving you a second to think about it. Okay. Remember what thing you chose.
Their names have come to represent all of the lost black lives that didn't make the headlines.
Oh right, they're all black. Well, that wasn't what I was thinking of, but sure. Let's come back to my thing. Let's go with yours for a second. Well, you just did a big long list of black people shot in America by police. Can you name one white person? Those were all major stories in the media. Surely you'd be able to name one white person shot by police in America. Oh, maybe it's because it's much less common. Well, let's look at some statistics, shall we? This is from near the end of 2015, not quite the end, but should give us a general idea of how many people were shot by police in America in 2015. Well, I'm sure a lot of you have noticed something a little bit strange there. White people seem to be the largest group. And in fact, when the race of the person killed by police is known, they are actually the majority. Well, that's a bit strange, isn't it? Now, I'm sure you're going to argue that this is because white people simply are the majority of people in America, and that's true. But shouldn't that still mean that the majority of stories that come out about someone being shot by police would be of white people? Well, that's perhaps a media bias, but it doesn't undermine the core message of Black Lives Matter, which is that black people are being unfairly targeted by police, and that this constitutes oppression against black people. So let's move on.
These deaths have helped spark a new movement determined to end institutionalized white supremacy.
You what, mate?
Institutionalized white supremacy.
Holy shit! Are you sure you're not just laying that on a little thick, and that the rest of this video is going to totally fail to support that? White supremacy. So this has to be some people who actually believe that white people are superior, and it has to be something that's institutionalized, something that is actually written into law. This can't just be a few bad apples being racist dicks. This has to be institutionalized. You've certainly got your work cut out for you.
I'm Wilbert L. Cooper. Today on Daily Vice, we continue our series looking at Vice's biggest stories of 2015, Black Lives Matter.
Good luck to you.
My dad was a police officer in the city of Cleveland. As a black officer, he understood tragedies like Eric Garner all too well. I was very young when he gave me the talk, that unfortunate speech that black parents must give their kids about the burdens they face in the world because of the color of their skin.
Well, that's how most religions work. They gotta get you when you're young.
He told me there was a pine box in a prison cell made the day I was born. At that time, I didn't fully understand what he meant. It took me seeing the lives of so many young brothers and sisters snuffed out unjustly before I grasped the gravity of his words and how they reflected the vulnerability of my own black body.
Your own black body. There's something weird about talking that way, isn't there? These modern social progressives have this almost fetishistic way of talking about being black. You hear it with not just my black body, but also I love my blackness, or Black Lives Matter, like it's the life that is black, it's their black life. It's your life, it's your body, you happen to also be black. Yes, I guess your body is black, but if I started talking about my white body and my white life, then unless I was doing it in some self-deprecating way, then you progressives would think that I was fetishizing being white, that I was some kind of white supremacist, wouldn't you?
We decided to talk to Opal Tometi, one of the movement's co-founders, about the impact that Black Lives Matter has had.
Oh, that person looks a bit different from you. I don't know what exactly it is. They have that long hair, sort of softer features in general. I'm wondering what that difference could be. Maybe it's important.
This year for the movement has been phenomenal. We've seen people who are incredibly courageous rise up and take to the streets. You know, we're seeing every 28 hours an unarmed black person being murdered.
An unarmed black person. Yeah, I'm skipping the bit I was doing before. Your difference is that she's female. Let's take a look at that list that you gave again, and why don't you try and see what the thing I noticed in common was.
After Michael Brown was killed, the anger and heartbreak of a community spread across the country. Then came Walter Scott, then Freddie Gray, then Laquan McDonald, Tamir Rice, and Eric Garner.
Right, they're all men. Let's take another look at those statistics I showed. And without those black boxes on it this time, we can now see what was missing. The 365 were men. And on the other side, we can now see 20 women. That's a much bigger difference, isn't it? It's funny how I bet that none of you would say that men are therefore being oppressed or targeted by police. But somehow you say that black people are, even though the difference between men and women is much larger than the difference between white people and black people. Now, even if we could show that the difference there between males and females killed by police was due to discrimination by police, you still wouldn't see me marching on the streets with a sign that says, "Male Lives Matter." Because that would still be sexist. Even if it's targeting a real issue, that doesn't make sexism, or in your case, racism, okay. But what I will say is that as a black female, you do not get to play the victim when you are much, much, much less likely to be killed by a police officer than if you were a white male.
And our communities are tired of it. And so what we've seen in 2015 is the real deep cry of a people that says enough.
Back in April, Vice was in Baltimore after Freddie Gray's death. We talked to an organizer who said his death was a tipping point for a city with lots of underlying issues.
There are neighborhoods that are filled with poverty, filled with houses breaking down that has never been addressed for decades. We want answers to that. We want change to that.
And what's the bet that that change comes from government interference with tax money from everybody else? See, that's the other thing. On top of being racists, Black Lives Matter protesters are Marxists. What else can we add to this list?
I think one of the most powerful things that we're seeing in this movement is the articulation of structural injustices.
You keep using words like that, Vice, as though they don't have any meaning. Structural, institutionalized. If it is not actually written into the laws and the systems that govern these sorts of things, then it is not institutionalized, it is not structural. Even if you can show that there are quite a few racist cops targeting black people, which is something you may very well be able to show, that does not make it institutionalized, and it as sure as fuck does not make it white supremacy.
We're seeing the death of Freddie Gray rally so many people. Folks are pointing to the fact that there is high unemployment, there's rampant discrimination in their communities, there's substandard educational systems that are operating in their neighborhoods, and folks are really pointing to this as being the real injustice that's plaguing their communities.
Then be a fucking adult and work to make your community better. Don't just cry the victim and ask Big Mummy government to come and pull you out of your shit.
Tyrone West died while in police custody in Baltimore in 2013. Vice caught up with his sister during this year's protests.
We're out here because we don't want nobody to go through this type of pain that you cannot give back. They can't give us back Tyrone West. So there will truly be no true justice, but all we're asking for is accountability, transparency. That's all we've been asking for. But nothing happened to those people that killed my brother.
Finally, an actually arguable point. Holding police officers more accountable for the crimes that they commit in their capacity on the job is a totally defensible position. Probably one I'd take. But your movement is called Black Lives Matter. Your movement is not the one that is going to solve this.
This has been a really traumatic period for so many of us. I think witnessing on video and on television the murder of black people, it's been relentless.
Good God, has it? In the media, On TV, yes, it has been fucking relentless with black people being killed by cops. Never mind the fact that it happens less than it happens to white people in total. That doesn't show that there is no bias of police officers against black people, but it does show that there is a media bias towards showing black people being killed by police officers. There is a narrative being pushed here.
It's been really heart-wrenching, to be quite honest, to sit down with mothers who share their stories about their sons and their daughters and their husbands and so on. And there's not much you can say except, I'm here, we're with you, and this movement is because of you.
I don't know about these specific people, but my God, if I knew that my dead relative was being used to push your racist fucking agenda, I would be horrified.
The Black Lives Matter movement has also played a part in shaping the 2016 presidential campaign.
I'm going to get to some very important points that actually prove that Black lives do matter.
Yeah, I wonder why she's doing that, Hillary. I wonder why she's kowtowing to these fucking maniacs barging into a rally. I think maybe it's because this is what will happen to her if she doesn't instantly give in to you cry bullies. I understand that you guys were losing a lot of ground, losing a lot of attention from the SJWs and social progressives because the Muslims were doing such a better job of scaring the crap out of people, being horrible human beings, and then bitching about some trivial bullshit. Blowing up a building and then complaining about a cartoon is kind of hard to top, but you guys are getting right in there, just scaring the crap out of people.
Black Lives Matter really emerged in the heart of President Obama's second term. It came about at a time where there was this push to be colorblind. There was this push to really see the world as post-racial.
To be colorblind. You're going to say that's a problem, isn't it? Seeing people as individuals and not seeing them as just big amorphous groups under the banner of whatever melanin level they have in their skin. You're going to say that's a bad thing, aren't you?
And the reality is that it wasn't matching up with our experiences every day. Now, fast forward a couple years, and what we're seeing from people in the grassroots is that they want a discourse and a plan of action that really speaks to their very real needs.
Wow! That was masterfully vague language. A plan of action that speaks to their very real needs. The only way you know that what she's saying is that we all focus on their race is because of what she prefaced it with that word colorblindness. It's kind of telling that you have to tiptoe around that so much. You know, somewhere deep in that stony fucking heart of yours, you know that you're being a racist cunt, don't you?
I worked on a documentary this year that looked into a string of rapes and murders of black women in the city of Cleveland. I thought it said a lot about race and class and law enforcement in my hometown that this tragedy had been mostly overlooked. It was like their lives didn't matter.
And those women that were crack addicts, prostitutes, whatever, they still have a right to be able to walk the streets and not have anybody take anything from them or harm them.
I believe that there is unequivocally a bias when it comes to the lives of black women.
No. Black females are safer than white males. We looked this up before. It was for police shootings, but it holds for murders or most kinds of assault.
Oftentimes there are assaults that go unrecorded, uninvestigated, unseen by the broader public.
Well, it looks like I'm breaking my citation needed virginity. Citation fucking needed! Hey!
When they're impacting black women.
Wait! Never mind. I know you don't have a citation because you just said they were unrecorded.
One of the things that I'm most hopeful about is the fact that black women and queer black women are part of the leadership, and folks who have been most marginalized, trans, queer, gender non-conforming people are now being brought front and center. Quite frankly, if their lives don't matter, none of our lives will matter.
Well, I mean, that's not right, is it? if we actually had a white supremacist society, for example, yes, some people's lives would matter, white people's. God, this is going to be taken out of context. No, I'm not advocating for a white supremacist society. I'm just saying that's not technically right. Oh, God. Let's move on to a slightly different topic. So you posted some footage of what I did before, the Bernie Sanders thing where Black Lives Matter cunts pushed their way onto a stage. Only a female, preferably a black female, someone real high up in the progressive stack, would be able to do that, wouldn't they? So, the idea that black women are being marginalized, that might have a couple of problems with it. It's starting to seem like in some scenarios, in some communities, black women may be marginalized, whereas in others they wouldn't be. Almost as though the world's a bit complicated and you can't boil it down to this fucking progressive stack that you desperately want to.
It's really our duty to fight. It's our duty to live in and to be the best that we can, and to ensure that all of our lives matter.
So, did you just say all lives matter? I think you did. Are you allowed to say that because of your place on the progressive stack? Do Black Lives Matter or do all lives matter? Because I've been taught that this is a true dichotomy.
That's today's Daily Vice.
Oh God, this isn't actually a daily thing, is it? Oh, I didn't look it up because I don't think I could stomach the idea of another one of these monstrosities birthed into creation every 24 hours. But no, okay, I just want to sum up and recap a few things. 3 things. 1, fuck the progressive stack. Life is more complicated than that. You can't boil it all down to that. 2, fuck Vice. You need Gavin McGuinness back. Let him come in, cleanse the place, fix it, and maybe you'll have a news source again. And 3, it's more of a question for any social progressives, anyone really who supports Black Lives Matter who may come across this video. It seems to me you have a choice between saying that the statistics you're using actually don't support the idea that black people are discriminated against by police, or they do show that men are discriminated against by police. The statistics speak much more strongly in favour of the latter. If you're going to say that the numbers alone, those broad statistics, don't show discrimination for men, then it also doesn't show it for black people. I'm frankly somewhere in the middle. I think that there is some discrimination and some other factors as well. In both scenarios, it's a bit complicated, and like everything else, I don't think you're going to be able to sum it up in a neat little slogan. But from your perspective, you've either got to go with one or the other. Either you've got to say that your statistical analysis is off and there isn't necessarily discrimination against black people, or you're going to have to say that there is against men. And I think your progressive stack might start to shake and wobble a little bit too much for you to want to do that. Alright, so get the fuck out of my shitty Honda Fit.
All of our lives matter. All of our lives matter. All of our lives matter. All lives matter.